Hello and welcome back to Small Talk. We've got another great episode ahead as we speak with a pair from Maine Maritime Academy. I'm your host, Katie Mucci. Each week on the show, we highlight the past and present of Division III, with both current and former student athletes joining to talk about their experiences, their favorite on-campus spots, the craziest road trip stories, and more. This week, we're chatting with a former two-sport athlete at MMA, Katie Clapham, and current volleyball student athlete Ila Smith. The two talk about the family atmosphere, stories from the road, the future of Division III, and more. Thanks for joining this week. Now it's time for some small talk.
My name's Katie Clapham. I'm a former member of both the volleyball team and the basketball team at Maine Maritime Academy. And right now I am the director of operations at a small company out of Woburn, Massachusetts that is in the energy consulting field.
I'm Ila Smith, and I am a current member of the women's volleyball team here at MMA.
Awesome. Well, thank you both for joining me today. I'm super excited to chat with you and hear about your experiences from then and now. So the first part we're going to start out talking about is your on-campus experience. So, Ila, since you are currently on campus, I'll have you start us out and talk about like maybe where you and your teammates are hanging out, what you guys are, any local restaurants you're going to, anything like that. Talk about what the spots are now. And then Katie, if you want to jump in right after and follow up if those are the same, if there's anything that you guys hung out at that is gone maybe now or anything like that. So Ila, get us started.
So I'd say my favorite place right now to hang out is Waypoint. It's like right under our cafeteria area, and it's the best place to go like study. So a lot of us will go there and just have the peace and quiet and study there. And then I know a local restaurant, Danny Murphy's. We go there sometimes just because they have really good pizza, and we just love to hang out all the time.
Cool. So let's just preface with Castine, Maine isn't really the most happening place on the face of the planet where there's tons of restaurant options and hangout locations. So I feel like our answers have to be pretty similar, but we definitely as a team did most of our hanging out at the mess deck because like everyone ate together all the time because our schedules were similar. So I feel like that was a lot of solid time with the team. And then before that restaurant, Danny Murphy's was there. It was called The Reef. So that was kind of like the once you were 21 hangout spot. And then when I was in school there, the Waypoint also did late night breakfast. So at like 10 p.m. they would serve breakfast. So we would go there once in a while as well. But yeah, that's about the limit in Castine.
Yeah, there's not many places to choose from here.
Late night breakfast sounds ideal as a college student though. So I'm very jealous my school did not have that.
Yeah.
So that's on campus, but now let's go off campus, talk about your traveling for competitions. In D3, it's relatively regional, but you probably do travel a little bit, especially being in Maine. You probably have to go a little bit farther to get some games in. How did you guys travel? Are you hopping on like 15 passenger buses? Did they give you or vans? Did they give you a big charter bus? What was that experience like? And then just talk about, maybe some travel quirks for your school. And Katie, you can start about your time.
Sure. We definitely took the 15 passenger van. I think for basketball, we sometimes when we travel with the men's team had the big buses, but for the most part it was the van. Sometimes I had to drive because that was the situation at the time. Definitely never flew. And I saw some of the other questions you had on the outline. We always had to have 3 to a room. So it was like the fight was always who gets a single bed. I don't know if it's still the same, but I remember when I started in the workplace after college and when you were traveling for work, obviously you got your own hotel room. Like that's appropriate when you're traveling with coworkers, but I was just so shocked and like, yes, this is so great. I get my own hotel room. I don't have to share with 2 other women. Yeah, and I don't know that like we always went to I guess early in the days of traveling, our coach Katrina's mom had a cafe in around Portland, Maine that we would stop at a lot when we were traveling because she just had good food and she always made us whoopie pies. So that was like a favorite spot of everyone.
I'd say we mostly did all of our traveling on the big buses. Last year it was entirely buses. This year it was mostly buses, but we did have like 2 van trips, which I honestly kind of enjoyed them. It brought everyone together. We were just like laughing and joking the entire ride. We went, I know, a couple times like on our little touristy times. We went to an aquarium one year. We don't do a lot of like tourist stuff, but I know in Boston we do a lot of fun things. They like let us not fully roam free, but go a certain distance. We just did a lot of shopping and we went to like really great restaurants, and that was the extent of it.
Nice. So I have to follow up with you, Katie. So you were driving the bus. Do you get any special training to drive a 15-passenger bus? What are they just giving you the keys and telling you to take the wheel?
I think I did have to. No, I did not get paid. I think I had to take like a 10-minute training in the back of the parking lot, like to make sure I was okay. It wasn't anything all that special, but at the time I didn't think anything of it. I was just like, oh, this is what everyone's supposed to be doing.
Yeah, you'd be surprised. You're not the first person to say that on this podcast this year. So, all about it. That was the time. You gotta get to your game somehow.
Exactly.
Awesome. Well, Ila kind of mentioned hers. Did you have any fun touristy experiences while you were traveling, or any cool places you guys got to go?
No, I honestly don't think for volleyball we did any touring, or I don't think we did anything at all. I think for basketball one year we had a tournament in Florida, and so we got to do some fun stuff. We were at like one of the Disney locations and it was late at night, so there was like no people on the ride, so we just got to like run through everything wild. But for volleyball I don't really remember any trips where we got to do anything special or outside of the norm.
Okay. I bet a Florida trip and probably the winter season coming from Maine was a nice little break.
Oh yeah, it was great. Minus running in the sand. That was not so great.
That's fair. So now let's talk about academics, the student part of student athlete. Can you guys both share your majors? And then once you share those, we'll maybe talk about if there's any overlap there in classes you are taking or anything like that. So Ila, what is your major currently?
I'm currently studying international business and logistics.
I studied power engineering technology. I don't think there's a ton of overlap. I will say I remember a lot of my teammates being like, oh my God, I had one class today. They were business majors, and I was like, really? I've had a class all day today. What are you guys doing over there in business?
Yeah.
But no,
I'm
you guys had
definitely one of
electives
those.
in our. Oh, you are.
Yeah. Every Tuesday it's just one class. I'm like, oh, this one class made me so tired. I love to kind of rub it in sometimes.
Oh yeah, you have to. Yeah, no overlap, I don't think, really.
Okay. Katie, for you being a 2-sport athlete and obviously having a very challenging major, what was it that was able to help you balance all that? And maybe how has that also helped you now that you're out in the professional world?
Honestly, I think just not having any time made that there was just like no space to procrastinate. I did a year of grad school at MMA and my major was in business, and there were days I didn't have any classes at all, and I definitely started to procrastinate in grad school because there was time to, but in undergrad there just like was no time for that, especially there were times when the seasons were overlapping, so it was like 4 hours in the gym, class all day, like eating, and then really not a lot of time left over for anything else, which honestly was probably the best thing for me. I did not have time to procrastinate. And I'd say, like, thinking back about the time in school and spending so much time using your brain and like kind of stressed out with homework and all that, like having a physical exercise at the end of the day, to like just show up to practice, not have to think, and just be like told what to do, whether that is like conditioning or whatever. It was like really positive, just to have like a release, stress release. And I definitely try to maintain that today. Make sure that I'm like physically active every day. Without it, it's like, stress gets high. So I definitely carry that over into my life now.
That's great. Get those endorphins going.
Mm-hmm.
Kate or Ila, for you, since you're in school right now, what is maybe your favorite class or favorite couple classes you've been taking into your major?
I would have to say marketing management has been a really fun one, just because learning how different companies market their products has been very interesting to me. And we have a professor, he's the head of the department. He is very outgoing and can just interest you in any topic. So I would say, I don't think you would have had him, but Kirk Langford, he was just probably one of the best professors that I've had.
Awesome.
Very cool. Well, now we're gonna get to some story time. So I would love to hear from both of you, maybe a funny or a crazy, but also appropriate for this podcast, story from your time. So I'll stick with you for the first, Ila.
I have to say, we had this idea. I don't remember who saw it, but they wanted to do a cheer with like a human-made bike. So there'd be like two people on the bottom, one person as like the seat, and someone sitting on top, like moving the bike. And so we were playing Colby College last year, and they're like, hey, at some random point, they're like, hey, let's do this thing, guys. And so they like get it together, and I think it worked for like maybe 2 seconds before the whole thing just fell over. And it's like people on the court were trying not to laugh while the game's going on, and it was just so funny.
That's awesome.
Nice. I'm trying to think about the funniest story. There's a couple. I'll try to keep it to volleyball. I remember we played at Unity, and one of the line judges was like shirtless with like overalls. It was a guy. He had no shirt and overalls with like one thing over his shoulder, and he was just eating pizza, just hanging out, doing lines. We were like, every time he had to make a call, like no one trusted what he's doing at all, because he was not paying attention in the slightest.
Oh no. Sad. Someone didn't show up for work that day. They had to find someone in the crowd.
Yeah, maybe.
That's funny. Oh, that'd be rough though. So those were fun stories, but then do you have any favorite memories that maybe are not funny or crazy, but just something you hold dear to you? And Katie, you can start that one.
I don't know if I can think of like one specific thing. I think just like being part of the family that was like MMA female athletics when I was there. I'm sure it's probably similar now, but Craig and Tree were the coaches of both basketball and volleyball and many other sports, and their kids were little when we were there, and just sort of we were all kind of one family. So we spent a ton of time together. Like during breaks, we were having breakfast and then doing a practice and then having lunch and then doing another practice and then having dinner and then hanging out as a team. So like, and it was always at their house too. So I don't know. I think overall just being part of their family and then like us all creating our own family is probably the best memory, not something specific, just like the relationships that were formed and how close everyone was and how comfortable everyone was to be themselves in their own skin and act goofy or act silly or act however they wanted to be. There's like something about being around all women all the time that I think just lets people be fully themselves. And I really loved that.
Great, Ila.
For me, I do have like one specific instance, and it's also another funny one. I remember last year during the NAC championship, we were playing SUNY Delhi, and at this point we were like down 2 sets. We were in the halfway through the third set, and I think they served, and one of our DSs went back, and she was like trying to follow it to the line because it was going out, like it was very obviously going out, and she followed it, and then it hit her right in the head and just flew off. And some of us were angry, but it was also one of those times like you're mad, but it's so funny. And you were trying not to laugh. Everyone was like angry and trying not to laugh, just like holding our faces. And I honestly believe that was the turning point in the game because we ended up winning, but it was at that moment that we were all just like laughed it off. We got so much more comfortable and we came back. And I just think that was really the turning point of the game.
That's awesome. And did you guys win last year? We win the
We did.
championship? There you go. Laughter will help you out along the way.
Really did.
That's awesome. Well, those are kind of the questions about your experience, but we're going to go to some couple D3 questions now. So I'll start with you on this one, Katie, and we kind of talked about maybe balancing things after 9 years in professional life, but maybe looking back at your D3 experience, doing 2 sports, having a tough major, being in a really good school. What did it mean to you to have been a D3 student athlete and while you were in school and then now that you're out of it?
I think in school it just felt like that's the way it was. Like Ila, you're probably just in it and doing it. Like it probably just feels like that's your life. You're not really reflecting on like, wow, I'm a student athlete. You're just doing it every day. That's how my experience was. There wasn't another option because that's what I was doing. So it just was what it was. It was the experience. Looking back now, I think about, I don't know what I would have done if I had more time. Like if I didn't play sports, I don't know how I would have spent my time or who would have been my friends or things like that. And also looking back now, a lot of the connections wouldn't have happened. I'm still in touch with a lot of people from the team, and Craig and Tree, of course, the coaches at that time. And I think it makes you be someone who is like able to take on a lot. And yeah, I don't know. I'm really happy. I would not take anything back. I loved playing sports in school. I think about it now when I'm doing something that's tough and I don't want to do it. Like I'm running a half marathon next weekend and I did a training run this weekend and I was like, I'm kind of over this right now. And I was just thinking about times in school. Like I literally have my playlist at the end of the race. The playlist always goes back to a song we used in our warm-up tape. So it still like amps me up. So there are things that like I directly think about regularly that still get me motivated from playing sports at Maine Maritime.
Very cool. Well, good luck with the race next weekend.
Thank you.
Ila, how about you?
I'd say for me, kind of like what she said, you don't always feel like a student athlete. It's just like it's something that you just do and you kind of get used to it. Because I know whenever we're out of season, it feels so weird. Those days like going without having practices, it becomes such a big part of your life. So I'm glad we have a spring season, so at least have something to do on that second semester. But it really does. It's just like a family at all times. Like I couldn't imagine not seeing all these girls like almost every day. And you might annoy each other, but at the end, we are a family. So, and I'm glad that like D3 gives me an opportunity to also focus a little bit more on my academics to help like set me up for the future a lot more.
Great. And my last question for both of you. So this podcast is part of our 50th anniversary of Division III celebration for this year. So Division III has been around 50 years and hopefully many, many more to come. So Ila, I'll stick with you to start this one and then Katie, you can follow. But looking into the future, if you can pull out your crystal ball, what do you hope to see for the future of Division III?
I hope to see a lot more people take it into consideration because I know a lot of people see D3 and think there's not this level of competitiveness. but there really is. Like, it's a great option for students academically, but it keeps that competitive aspect within it that I really love, honestly.
Great, thank you. Katie?
Yeah, I don't think my answer is all that much different. Awareness seems to be important. I had no idea that I even could play sports in college. And I'm so glad I did. But I hope that kids in high school who, know that they're good athletes, but they're not going to be playing, they're not going to get a scholarship, still think about it. It totally makes their experience better. And balanced, and this gives you a whole host of options I don't think you necessarily have without participating in things outside of academics. Yeah, I hope people continue to participate.
Wonderful. Well, thank you both again for joining me today. I had a great time hearing from you. We'll look forward to hopefully cheering you on, Ila, to another championship this year. I was looking up your record earlier, and you guys are 8-0 in conference play right now, so you're doing pretty good.
Thank you.
I will look forward to cheering you on this season, and best of luck with everything, both of you. Thank you again.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good luck, Ila.
Thank you.
To everyone listening, thanks for tuning into this episode of Small Talk. We post new episodes every Thursday. To follow along with everything Division III, you can find us on social media at NCAA D3 or NCAA DIII. Make sure to join the conversation with us all year long by using the hashtag DIII50. Have a great day, and we'll see you for some more Small Talk next week.